computer. Here we go.
All
Well,
right.
hello everyone. This is the Full Moon Meetup. I'm Jennifer Barish, and we are gathered right after the full moon here in Sagittarius. It is June 11th. That moon was full at around 3:45 a.m. here in Cincinnati. So you have to change that a bit based on your location around the world, but I think we're still coming off of some full moon vibes, and there's some things to learn. I always reflect back after because you can't always see what's happening when you're in it, but you can feel it and see it kind of after the fact. So yeah, we're just having a good old conversation. We're talking about qualities of Sagittarius and that full moon. And Barbie brought up a great point. So why don't you tell us again about the new moon, Barb?
Oh, no, sure, great. When you look at the full moon in Sagittarius, you have to think it was a new moon at one time, and that
Mm-hmm.
new moon goes reflects back to December 1st, 2024. And if you look back, and I don't know if you know the book Jan Spiller, she wrote. She's not with us no longer, but she wrote a book, New Moon Wishes, and it's an excellent book and to journal by. And she also has the nodes on there. But anyhow, if you go in there and you looked at the new moon back in December 1st of 2024, and you think of Sagittarius, it would be around your truth, the peace of mind, adventure, travel. That's that ninth house kind of, nuance. Also, some like a legal breakthrough or renewed faith and optimism about something. But you also, what are your wishes? What are your thoughts? Do I want to travel more? I like to travel more. Or I like to get higher knowledge. I like to go take classes at Astro College. That's higher knowledge. So when December comes around again and the new moon in Sag comes up, think about that. So yeah, and also you can also think of medical things, the hips, the thighs is another thing, part of it. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the book New Moon Wishes by Jan Spiller is one to have on your bookshelf.
Yeah, I'm gonna order that. I don't have that one, but all of Jan's work was so good. I think I have a couple of her books, and they're timeless. It's kind of like a Linda Goodman Sun Signs in a way. Jan has her own place in the
Yes,
canon.
she does, and she also has your granddaddy wishes, which come around your birth day. And so
Hmm.
in the book, it describes how to calculate that. So you have 2 weeks, or some have 3 weeks, depending on your date of birth, and you have granddaddy wishes that you can wish in. And those are, you write your journal and wish your birthday wishes, your granddaddy wishes. So I don't
Hmm.
know. I say get the book, read it, and see what you think. And I love, everybody wants to wish upon a star. Come on, right?
Right. Well, I've gotten all of my girlfriends here where I live when we gather. I've been, well, I took a little break for the summer. So I digress. I became a grandma last month. My daughter had my first grandbaby, and she's in West Virginia, which is about a 4.5 hour drive from where I am. But so on Mother's Day on the 12th, and that was a full moon too, by the way.
Mhm.
Let's see, the full moon was on the 13th, like an hour after Sage was born. So she's a full moon baby. So like a month ago. So anyway, Mother's Day, we were clearing brush. We weren't doing, we weren't having tea and having, like oh, mom stuff. Instead, we're out working, and I mean, all day in the sun. It was pleasant, but I was worn out, and my husband too. And I got the call, and she said, Mom, the hospital just called me and said, Happy Mother's Day. Do you want to have a baby? Why don't you come in for induction tonight? She said, So I'm supposed to be there at 9 o'clock. She said, So you might want to get on the road. And my husband looked at me and he was like, Well, are you sure? Can you do this? Like, he needed to stay so my son could go to school. And well, anyway, I'm like, Oh no, I'm on pure adrenaline. I'm going. And buddy, we came home as quick as we could. I hopped in the shower, packed my bag, and I was gone. I got there close to midnight, but they'd just gotten started and the baby wasn't born until the next morning, like around 11:30. She had a
Mhm.
great labor. I mean, she probably didn't think so, but it was fairly, textbook and easy and just the most pleasant little baby. I mean, she is just like a little angel. Savannah doesn't know how lucky she is because she just sleeps well and eats well. And, I keep wondering, like, okay, where's is she going to have a temper? What her little personality? And a little bit, but as long as she's being fed, she does really well. So anyway, that was my last full moon. And it has felt like a whirlwind to this one. Like, I don't know how you guys, what's been going on for you, but it is just, time has just been like popping for me, just really busy. And uh, coming into this full moon, I'd ask Cheryl Ann if she felt it, and I'll ask you guys too. Like, so I'm a Sag rising. So I think if you've got Sag placements, obviously it's coming to your neck of the woods, and you may have more of a like feeling toward it. So I'd be interested to hear, Cheryl Ann, if you have any ninth house stuff, or if you have Sagittarius, because you said it was softer for you. Oh, turn your volume on. Your volume.
So I actually do have a Sagittarius placement. I have Uranus at 14 something or other, and I didn't even feel the moon coming around this time. It was really unusual. But
Really?
I'm also in a very different place than I have been. I just moved to the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin to do some care work for a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole scenario is just really, really relaxed and chill and very, very slow paced. So I think that my personal experience here might had something to do with me feeling it less than what I would have if I had been um, in the suburbs where I was before.
So did you move from very far away or nearby?
Oh, from far away. I moved from Long Island, New York.
Oh, wow. Oh, so
So
big shift, big difference.
Well, yes, but I also have been a lifestyle traveler internationally too for quite a while. So
Okay,
it's a big move, but it's not unheard of for me
sure.
to make big moves.
So, have you checked your astrocartography for the
I
location?
have, yes. I've noticed I noticed a couple of things, a couple of shifts. Um I noticed my Saturn ends up being in a trine with my probably my ascendant, which is an
Okay.
improvement from
Mm-hmm.
it not having any aspects. Um, I can take a look at it right now. I have it on my computer. I
Okay.
so I'm right now I'm on my I mean I use SolarFire and I on my Windows machine and I use Ephemeris on my Mac, and right now I'm on my Mac. So I'm only looking at the relocated chart and not the params and the lines and everything like that. Um, oh yeah, my rising sign also it also switches from Leo to Cancer in this location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I
Wow.
feel like that may have a lot to do with me just generally feeling a lot more mellow
Mm-hmm.
rather than having.
Well, I kind of find that all too interesting. One, you moved far from, far, that's Jupiter, right? You've
Mm-hmm.
traveled.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, that Jupiter is entering Cancer, the sign of
Mm-hmm.
Cancer.
That's just what I was gonna say. You've got that Jupiter influence
Uh-huh.
double for
Mhm.
you. So it may feel more pleasant, you know?
Yes. Yes, true.
I was going to
That's
say,
so
Sarah,
cool.
Yeah,
whereabouts,
it is
where,
pleasant.
Whereabouts in Wisconsin? I lived for about 2 decades in Lake Geneva area. Did you hear Lake Geneva,
So I'm in
Wisconsin?
the driftless area.
Okay, is that
I'm in
north?
the no, it's the southwest. It's sort of in
Oh, okay,
between
south.
Lexington and La Crosse.
Okay, so you're on southwest. Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
are you like then maybe towards Champaign?
Oh, I don't know where Champaign is.
Okay, close
Cheryl
to.
Ann's too busy enjoying just a peaceful, easy feeling. I hear like the Eagles in my mind in the background. You ever know that song is having a peaceful, easy feeling? That's what I envision. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just feeling good. It's not even like a full moon. It's like just making me happy.
Yeah, that's very much what it is.
I love that. I love that for you. Well, this is the first lunation that we have Jupiter in Cancer. And so we've got that Jupiterian influence along with, of course, Sag being ruled by Jupiter. So I think we have hopefully some good news or some goodness, some kind of abundance or growth or something. And so let's pull up the chart though, unless anybody else did you have something you wanted to say, Barbie, before I do that?
Oh no, it's all good.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I think I ran the vibrations on that chart this morning because I wrote on the vibrations.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
cool. I'm
yeah.
glad. I'm glad you brought that in. All right, I'm going to share our screen and then I'll pull up the chart here. I have a Mac, so I use Astro Gold. And been doing all that draconic work. I had to make sure. No, we're on tropical here, Placidus. All right. So 20 degrees and 39, I say minutes. In my mind, I say cents. 20 degrees and 39 cents. So almost 21, but not quite.
Yeah. So the
And
Sabian symbol for that would be cutting ice winter from the summer use.
so I wanted to talk to you about that, Barbie.
Uh,
I read somewhere that said that you should round up to the next symbol. That after
yeah,
you pass that degree, any minutes past that degree makes it go to 21.
right. Yeah, you could round it up. You could round it up to 21, but yeah, because it would, it is at 39. It could go to 21. You could round up, but it's that 30. Yeah, you could if you wanted to. You could put actually both of them in, really.
Yeah. Well, I
So
just wondered your thought about that. And I can't
I
remember. I've got a Brian Bovee book, but who did the Sabian symbols? I can't remember the fellow's name. I have
Yeah,
the
there's quite a few. The ones I
Oh,
use here as Linda Hill, but there's several that written Sabian symbols. But I would say yes to Ryan about rounding it up. And so then, because the fact is if you're looking at which was the fastest moving, obviously we know it's the moon, right? In this
right.
condition. But if you're looking at another planet and you're trying to figure out which one, like if you was to go to Saturn and Jupiter, because Saturn and Jupiter here, you can see Saturn and Jupiter, they're in a square. And
Yes.
so and you're going to learn this in your studies as you go along, and you might already know that what type is this? Well, Jupiter just entered, but it's at 19, right? At 0019. And if you
Mhm.
look at Saturn, it's at 0005. Well,
Yeah.
Jupiter is an opening square. Jupiter is separate because it's at a higher degree. See, you see
Yes.
that 19, like you're speaking of, you know.
Right.
Um, and so the minutes, when you look at the minutes and the seconds, right? And so then it's an opening square, right? Because Jupiter's going to go on to 001 before Saturn does.
Well,
Because Jupiter is faster. And the retrograde, then there's going to be a retrograde with Saturn.
Yeah, Jupiter is faster. So I have a question. That
Mhm.
Saturn is at 0105.
Oh, yeah, 00, yeah, 0105, but Jupiter is at zero, yeah, zero, okay, thank you. You got me, zero,
Okay,
one.
I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure
but
you,
yeah,
but
okay, I thought it was at zero, zero, I'm thinking Saturn's still at zero, zero. But here, when Jupiter gets to that, so that wasn't a good, really, but what I'm trying to say is, yes, we do look at that second numerals, because what that does is it tells you which one is, especially if they were both at 00 or 01. You see what I'm saying? If they both had the
yeah,
same number, but I'm trying to use a planet over the luminaries, because the luminaries, we know that the moon is faster, right?
right.
And so I was just trying to give another incident. You try to find a square or a triangle, and then try to see which one. Like, okay, so if you look at Jupiter to Mars, right? That's now we do have something. We have Mars at 00, right? And we
Yes.
have Jupiter at 00. So there's a good one. But Mars is at 39 and Jupiter is at 19. So Mars is moving faster, right? You see?
Yep,
Yeah,
I see it.
yeah, you see, you get, yeah,
Yep.
because Jupiter's at 19, and then you have, and that's where we get
In the
into,
minutes here.
right, in the
Yeah.
minutes, right, right. So
Okay.
yeah, so that's what's getting, now that's when you get down to what you're trying, the pieces that you're trying, yes, that's good detective work on Jen. Just saying you could round that up over to the moon and the sun, either one,
Well,
to,
I'm mentioning it because I've seen people do it both ways, and I know that if anybody's gonna find out and tell us which way to use it, you will.
well,
So that's why I
well,
wanted, while we're
I would
together,
say,
I wanted to ask.
you know, no, well, I would say to be, when you're getting this tight, you can, and it's at 39. So you would say that that's, but if it was less than that, you wouldn't obviously do it, right? And
Okay.
so, yeah. So if you kind of want to think about that now, so we're at Sag, and so we would actually go back into actually 18, because you have to go back one in some of these programs to get them to work. Or do you use a book?
Uh,
Do you look them up, or do you use a book?
Usually I use the book.
Okay. So actually, you'd be going up one, because it's going. So it's not going the other way. It's going up one. Do you use a book? You use the book?
You're talking about for the
For the
Sabian
Sabian,
symbols. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
I thought,
Mark
yeah.
Edmund Jones, that's who I was trying to come up with. That
Yeah, oh,
was the
Mark Edward
first,
Jones. Yeah,
yeah, that
his,
was
yes.
the first book. And so
Okay, so
somewhere in the introduction, it says something about once you pass that degree and it's got any minutes to it, that it
then
should
you
go
can,
into the next one. So
yeah,
anyway, just
yeah,
something for you to investigate and see what
yeah.
you
No, I
think
think
about it.
that's a
But
good,
I see merit for both.
that's very good detective work. And so then the Sagittarius at 21, a child and a dog wearing borrowed eyeglasses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't know if that's what you came up with, if you have,
Mm-hmm.
or if you use one.
That's 20, that's 21. But I like, so I'd kind of save the Sabian symbol in my thought toward the end, because not everybody jives with Sabian, but that's fine. But the thought to me of this, I got in the Brian Bovee book, which is a little more modern, whereas Mark Edmund Jones, it's got, I don't know, kind of a classical type of feel, and the language can be a little bit hard. This
Mm-hmm.
one says that to think of it like a child putting his dad's glasses on the dog, like it's playful,
Oh,
like he's being silly, like he's saying, "Oh, look at this perspective. Have you ever thought about life through a dog's eyes?" Like like
yeah,
shifting our perspective, being willing to try on different glasses, and to be able to play around with it. So, and that's so funny. You know what I got in the mail today? This is so astrology so literal. You cannot make this up. So, my mom, I got to see her a few weeks ago, and she had on these yellow sunglasses. Do you remember the old like 80s style sunglasses, like risky business sunglasses, just the plain plastic frames, and they came in all different colors? So she had on a yellow pair. and they were so cute. And I was like, oh, I love your sunglasses, Mom. I want a pair. Well, she ordered them for me and they came in the mail today. And I had a yellow pair and a blue pair. They were like turquoise. So now I've got two really cool looking sunglasses to look at the world from a different perspective in a way. So just
Oh, that's
it's funny.
cool.
I didn't even think about that until we were talking. Then that's if you look at 21. So, but tell us about 20 again, because that's relevant too.
Yeah, that is relevant, but I now you've got me going down another whole different.
Oh
No,
no.
because I looked up. I have these other Sabian symbols in the 21 degree of Sag. All is an illusion, meaning it is subjective. So we must examine everything without prejudice.
Okay.
And so
I'm
that's
good with
pretty
that
much all
too.
the same as how you're looking at things, right? And so
Right.
this is a very strange image, and of the child or the dog in glasses, in some way, inaccurate representation of an event that has occurred or could occur, where the dog has greater intelligence, or is it an eloquent metaphor that speaks in one dimension of another, offering clues to help us discern meaning?
Bring clues. I felt clues coming in for me today. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the steps to do something, like breaking down the steps to be able to get a project done. And it seemed really big. So it was really big Sag, but yet the steps are there. And if you follow the directions and you look up all the words, I didn't even understand all the words. It's a construction project my husband and I are working on. And we had this list of all these materials that an architect had made for us, and we didn't even know what half of it was. And so, in order to get the contractor to do the work, we need to get these materials. And it's building a set of stairs and a deck. And so we're looking up all these pieces of wood, and there was something called an AZEC trim. And I'm like, what in the world? What is A? It's just a type of like, it's like a board, like a cover that frames something like a window or a door, and it's made out of PVC, like pipes are. So it's like plastic. But anyway, so we're looking this up and
yeah.
comparing sizes and measuring. So we're doing all this work. So on the onset of this project, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is too big. We don't understand this. We don't know anything about this, but yet we dug into the details and we looked at the clues and used our little magic answer box with Google on it and looked up all the different pieces of wood, and now we've got it. Like, I feel like, okay, I know how this is going to work. I know what they need in order to do this work for us. So I just ask you guys to reflect on that. Like, have you felt any sense of like needing to learn something or needing to teach something or trying to? Because so what I'm driving at here, when I look at a full moon and you're looking at the two opposites in the sky, it makes me think of the nodal pairs. Because when you study the nodes, the north and the south node, they always come in a pair and they're opposite of each other. So if there are 12 signs, that means there would be 6 nodal pairs that are opposite. And so they're kind of, if you look, even just seeing the opposition between the sun and the moon, there is, it's kind of like a pole. If you think about a north pole and a south pole, and you're considering the two different ideas that are kind of pinging off of each other. So Gemini is the student, the one with the details, the one with all the little pieces, and Gemini or Sagittarius at the top is like the teacher, and that teacher is saying, yeah, but do you have faith? Do you believe in your ability to see the bigger picture? Do you have optimism about it? Sag is all about looking on the bright side, sometimes to their fault.
Yeah.
Sag can be a little overindulgent, and, that Jupiter comes right through Sagittarius, overdoing it, going too far, having too many cookies. So I think that there's also maybe a flavor of that too. So kind of student teacher. And then I wrote down discernment, which is like the Sabian symbols, what are we trying to discern? What are we trying to figure out or learn? And then the same on that poll is the idea of having the data, which is Gemini, where the sun is at, to having intuition about something, which is where the moon is at. Do you believe in yourself? Do you have an increased awareness, maybe, of something that you're capable of doing, or, just feeling more empowered? Like, I got this. I don't need to worry about that. I can figure this out. And I also, like, over this project, I felt that today as well. Like, oh, this is not, we can do this, and in some ways my husband has some Gemini energy. And so I think that, like, I could just feel that, like, we're working together, very opposite ways of looking at things, but I felt more empowered. And I'm the Sag rising. So those are a couple of thoughts. And one other thought I had about this poll with these two opposites is that Gemini is about your locality, your neighborhood, your town, your city, your area around you. And some people will call it the fishbowl. And so what happens, sometimes we need to, like, break out of the fishbowl. We get stuck in our routines doing the same thing over and over. And that's shown if you look at the ascendant for the full moon here in Taurus. Taurus, the bull, he plows the field over and over again, day in and day out. And if you know a Taurus, they like they have certain things that they do. They can eat oatmeal for breakfast every single day. They pack their sandwich for lunch. They can be a little boring. And and I have Tauruses in my life, and they have other energies that can help pop them out of that. But my mom has a Taurus moon, and she can be very, every morning she had her coffee routine. And it was the same thing. Don't talk to mom until she's had her first cup of coffee. You just knew, like, just leave mom alone for a little while. But so how are we breaking out of that fishbowl? So in my mind, I envision, the fish, like, jumping out, like, I'm out of here. I'm doing something different. I got places to go, people to see. Like, what ways do you feel like maybe you're finding freedom within yourself? So maybe paying attention to that as the days go on. We're still in the full moon period. If you're looking at the phases, we're in the full moon phase for the next week. You'll feel it strongest for the next 3 or 4 days. But where are you feeling more free, or feeling like maybe you've escaped out of something? Maybe there's you got volunteered to do something. I think about at school, I'm always a sucker. They'll drag me into doing so much. And at one point I was preparing meals for the whole marching band every single Friday for all of the marching band. It just went on. And I mean, I was one of many volunteers, but and then I was still like, am I doing enough? My husband looked at me. He's like, are you crazy, Jen? Like, every single week you're doing plenty for both of us. Like, we're volunteered. We're at maxed out here. But the point is, where do you, maybe you say no to something, maybe you have a feeling like, no, this is not the direction that I need to go in, and feeling the freedom to go your own way. And then we'll cue the Eagles there too, because that was playing in my head when I wrote this down. There's a Eagles tune that says, go your own way, So thinking about that opposite, they're opposite of each other, but that also means that they're triggering or trying to stimulate each side of that pole. And seeing where this full moon comes in for you. You can do a bi-wheel. Does everybody here, do you have software to where you can pull up your chart, or do you, Teresa? And I heard Cheryl Ann said she did. Yeah, good. So you can see, a little bit about where this is showing up for you. But I wanted to go back and talk about that Taurus rising here, because look who's right here next to it. Venus, and Venus is in Taurus. And Venus likes to be in Taurus. She's happy there. That's one of her signs, Taurus and Libra. And so it's got this double, almost triple Taurus. So that again suggests to me like kind of breaking out of the box in a way, going and in fact we do have a big old square here. We've got this grand cross, but so I visualize that like in what ways did we say, oh no, or we're getting ready to say, I'm not doing this box thing. I want to go and do something different, you know. So speaking of the box in the chart, that's a square to the nodes. So if you look at the moon, and during, a full moon, you'll want to look at all of the aspects that are coming off of the moon. But so square the nodes suggests a turning point, that we're being motivated to make a decision, or there's a change, or there's, a different course or course correction or directional, maybe getting a sense of direction about something, so we're getting a little flavor of, in some ways, I think the future with this lunation because of that ping with the nodes. And so it's important to also consider your own north node and south node and where they're at, and be thinking about that and where these are in your chart, because wherever Virgo is in your chart, you're letting go of something. It's not as important as it was, or maybe you're cleaning it, or you're organizing, or you're purging, and wherever the north node is, you're bringing in Pisces qualities, more of a sense of compassion towards something, bring in your heart and your caring and your love into it. Makes me think about your kitty cat there. I see Teresa. I think, Virgo is supposed to be the sign of small animals. And I know Virgos, and they love their small animals, but, Pisces, it has like just that big love, and it can encompass all the different signs. So, the nodes being there asking us, I think, what do we love? So that's a bigger question that we get to answer over this next 18 months, figuring out what do we love, what do we want, and let's go back to the full moon in Sag saying, I am. I am is more of a Aries statement, but I seek. I want to do this thing. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to grow at something. I'm trying to strike my bow and arrow, because Sag is the archer, and drawing that bow and arrow back and striking that arrow over to the next hillside. Sag energy is somebody who has a lot of different irons in the fire, per se. And so sometimes having to pick and focus. And it may be that these nodes are saying, okay, well, maybe you've got some choices, Gemini, lots of choices. And then Jupiter just went into Cancer, and it's time to commit to one of them. It's time to decide, what do you love? What do you care about? What do you need to let go of so you can get a little bit closer? And Jupiter in Cancer, and hopefully you guys have been listening to, I had really hoped, and then I didn't get to do it with, being a grandma was more important, or is more important for me right now. But I'd hoped if I didn't, that someone would do a little workshop on Jupiter in Cancer, because it's exalted there. I feel like, this is going to be a good growth season for all of us in some kind of way. And I was listening to, couple of different things. One was saying that Jupiter in Cancer obviously is going to bring more of an emotional side, more of like a familiar, or bringing, and friends can be family too, gathering kind of our people, our home. And Cheryl, it sounds like you just picked up home and made yourself a new one with your friends, into a new place. So That's kind of funny how that parallels with Jupiter going into Cancer. And you want to think back to 2013, 2014. That's when Jupiter was last in Cancer. So whatever's coming in for you. But anyway, I was listening. I want to say it was Adam Ellenboss was talking about how during this time it can start out that way. But then as we continue to get further and further into Cancer, it can almost be like getting real like possessive of just your group or just your people to the point of like being clannish. So think back to like Scotland and Great Britain and back in medieval times when they were all like the Scottish clans and they were fighting against England, like this is my people, you know. And so I want to remember that because, astrology is one little group, that we're in, but you may have other groups. You might have, if you're into tarot, you're in your groups with your cards. I'm into yoga, so I've got my yoga group. A friend of mine is a dream coach, and so I've got my dream group. And it's hard sometimes for me to manage all of my different interests. So maybe it's time for me to start to say, okay, I need to choose. I need to pick 3 instead of 5 or 6, right? And along with that, not making one better than another, not being too clannish in that way or like clicky. So that's another way, like thinking about in high school, all the cliques. So as Jupiter continues to progress and get into the upper numbers, probably when we, get around 20, which won't be until next year, you could see more of those Cancer qualities coming out, where right now we're just getting a flavor, just a beginning of that. So let's see, what else do I have here?
I noticed the rising sign is different depending on where we're at. So I just pulled up the chart for the full moon here where I'm at, and it's Aquarius rising.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes a difference where you are located. For me, it's Aries.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay,
Yeah, so
cool.
that makes another nuance to it all. And so
Right.
and that's even when you get on, like if you get on a call with Zoom and you want to know what the feel is, what's it going to be for you, but you should check the location of who you're going to be with, because like mine's pretty much, that was how I came out, very cardinal.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I came out
You
initiating.
did.
I
You
did come out
did.
initiating it, right?
Right.
And trying to take over. Hey, I got this going, right? And then you fixed it with your Taurus.
And my list, I've got
No,
one,
because you,
two,
yeah,
I've got
because
6, 7 things on my list I wanted to talk about. So I think that is very Taurus.
yeah,
I'm
that's well, Taurus is, first is Aries is cardinal, Taurus is the
uh-huh.
fix, and then where are
Uh-huh.
you, Teresa? What did you say you had?
I'm in Seattle area, so it's Aquarius is the rising with Pluto right
So,
there.
okay, so you
Oh,
also have
wow.
wow, you also have fixed. What about you, Cheryl? Do you know? It's really
Um,
interesting
let
how
me
the
see where.
nuance, right?
No, I know. That's so cool. I didn't
Yeah,
know that it flipped around that much based
yeah,
on
and so like
location.
it'll change. Like when you're on a Zoom and you want to see how long you want to stay on before it
Uh-huh.
changes to something else, you may, yeah. Like, yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing to know about, even if you're going to do something, appointments and do things, just getting from one, you initiate, hey, this morning I got up and I was getting going. Well, what was it in? Well, was it in the cardinal sign? Or like this morning, you might have said, oh, I just feel like doing earthy, lazy kind of things. I'm going to eat my practical oatmeal this morning or something. I don't know. you know and so maybe that was the feel you had in here. I was like wanting to go get myself up,
Yeah.
get out this morning, and do things like this. I've been exhilarated, you know
Okay. Well,
you know
that's great. Yeah. So let's see. I actually was awake when it was full moon this morning. I've got a little bit of a cold. So somehow in between this baby being born, we had planned a few months ago to go to the beach for a couple of days when my son got out of school. We couldn't leave during spring break. We couldn't make it all work. And so I said to him, well, maybe we can go when you get out. And so we had some frequent flyer miles and we went down to Florida for a long weekend. Well, my husband caught a cold, I guess, on the plane, and he had it last week, and I thought I had escaped it, and I didn't. And so, anyway, I've been up with this thing, and needing to go take medicine because I'm kind of congested. And I woke up and I was like, yeah, I need to go downstairs and take Sudafed and take some Advil. I was feeling kind of hot, and this time of year anyway. I don't know if it's hot where you guys are, but it's kind of warm here in Cincy. And so I was awake, and then I started thinking about this project, and we were talking. He got up, and then we're talking about it, and I'm like, I'm never going back to sleep. So being a yogi, one of the tips that I give everybody, and I give this to you guys too, if your mind is racing and you can't rest, there's a pose called legs up the wall. And it's literally that. I lay on the floor and swing my legs up on the side of the bed, and I'll let them rest. And when your legs are inverted that way, it creates some hormone, I guess, as the fluids are flowing down your, just like what's in your body's kind of gravity's pulling them down toward your hips. There's some hormone that you develop that's like a form of melatonin that can make you relax and help you go back to sleep. And so it's a process, but if I'll do that for like 10 or 15 minutes and then I lay back down, I'll notice I'm calmer, like I just feel settled and my mind will stop being so busy. But I'll also it takes me probably another half an hour to get back to sleep. But when I get like that, I'm a person that I can wake up at 2:30 and just end up all night long. So I figure an hour, I'll give myself, if I do it, I'll think, okay, I'm going to do this for like an hour. And if I don't fall back to sleep, I need to go do legs up the wall. So I took my medicine and did that. And then I was a tourist this morning because I could not get out of bed. It was like 8:30 this morning. And normally I've been up with the sun coming up like 6:15. So I slept in, but I feel like I probably needed to help heal some of this stuff. So that was my experience. Anybody else have anything that you noticed, like any Aquarian stuff, Teresa, coming through for you? Well, you're on astrology tonight. That's one thing, right?
Yeah, yep. I think that pretty much covers it. And with the full moon energy, trying to do a lot more astrology stuff right now.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Well, make you can do a little ceremony for yourself, just like with the new moon. You can light a candle. It's a time to say a prayer. If you've got oracle cards or tarot, I tend to like oracle because there's so many flavors of them. Tarot feels very final to me. I'm like, anyway, that's just a personal thing. I'm like, oh gosh, the tarot has spoken. Like, I don't know, but I have fun with I have like animal cards and I've got herbal cards and angel cards. And so anyway, I have a lot of fun with those, but you can do something like that with the full moon and, just to honor, it's a full moon time. And also, kind of setting yourself up for thinking about during new moon. If you set some intentions, well, that was like the thinking time. A full moon is like the action time. So what can you do over the next 2 weeks to get closer to those goals before the next new moon time, right? So, and that's why when you do your new moon intentions, I usually break them into like 3. It'll be, here's some things that I'm working on that I'd really like to get done that, I want to quit procrastinating on and finish, like painting the bathroom or, I need to caulk the bathtub we've always got silly projects. I need to wipe down the cabinets or something. So I'll put some goals for myself that are small that I know that I can accomplish, right? And then I'll put something bigger, like if there's a book I'm reading I want to finish, or, if there's something I was thinking about, like, oh, I want to go down that rabbit hole, I want to study that. That was kind of how I got into doing the draconic charts, because I'd heard about it from another astrologer. And so what that is a chart that's set to an Aries rising point. And except it's not the rising, it's using your north node. It sets your north node to an Aries north node. And because we have all this Aries energy right now, it is like Aries time. So how did your chart kind of start? And it shows you a different version of your chart. And it felt very real to me anyway when I looked at my draconic chart. Like, oh yeah, I can see this. Like, I see this pattern, this repetition in myself that I go back to again and again. So rabbit holes that we go down, and then stuff that you don't know how it would ever happen. Like, I want to quit my job and be a full-time astrologer. I want to put a swimming pool in my backyard. I want to go on a trip to Italy next year, soon, or next 5 years, something that's really that much harder. Because if you do it like that, then you'll see your progress, and at least you'll feel accomplished. Like, oh, I got my painting done. I finished reading my book, because you can get those done. Well, we're not there to Italy yet, but we did start a savings account, and we're putting $100 a month in it, toward the Italy trip. So it can help you like goal set, but you kind of do it subconsciously in a way too, that you're kind of working toward that. And something about the process of just getting, excuse me, quiet with yourself and thinking about, what do I want? What do I want? We're so just inundated with information and social media and viewpoints and ideas, and very Gemini. So I think this full moon can help us kind of come to that, like, where do I want to go next? What's my next step? Where, if I'm going to jump out of this fishbowl, where am I jumping to?
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I just find it fascinating, and I knew about the ascendant and about the change.
I think I
I
have a
learned that a
cough
long
drop.
time ago, but it was just like now just revisiting it when you were saying, oh, you got Taurus, and
Right.
I'm like, no, well, everyone has a different feeling. Like if you think about yours would be fixed energy, so would
Yeah.
be Cheryl's, right? No, yeah, I think so. And I think all of you three would have fixed, and I had mutable. So that's kind of really interesting how you all
Yeah.
feel about your full moon. So it was just in the Central Standard area where we all kind of had this want to get up and go. Maybe what we wanted to push the East and the West Coast into doing.
Well, Sag fire, a Sag is not a sit around kind of person. They got stuff to do. They have lots of stuffs to do. Because we
Yeah.
take on too much and we love it. It's like life's never boring. My husband told me he left and took our dog out before I jumped on here. He said, "Well, enjoy the silence," And I thought, I don't feel lonely. Like, I've got all kinds of things to do. And I've cultivated so many different projects. I've got notebooks. I can't keep up with them all. I've got a stack for this project and a stack for that project and a stack for this other project. And so that's one of the low sides, I guess, of Sag, is that we oversaturate ourselves with stuff, and it makes it hard to focus on one. And so given that kind of nodal thing there, and by the way, that square, which some people call, well, lots of people call a grand cross, there's a book by the Hubers, Huber, on aspects and different formations. Now, how did I do that? Let me get back out of there. And It says that when you see a square like this in the chart, like a person that's born with this, that is a battery pack. That is like they motivate themselves. Like the squares are just like motivation to motivation to motivate. If anything, they could burn out, but they have a way of just like self-motivating. And so we have that available in the sky to us right now. How can you recharge yourself? And maybe we do it in different ways based on, it could be rising sign, it could be where it falls in your chart, it could be, I even was thinking about Venus there, but you've got Pluto. So Pluto would be a powerful thing, informing where you are in the world. Like, okay, so how do I need to transform? How do I need to change this up? How do I need to shift things? How do I need to compost? Which might also mean getting rid of some stuff. How do I focus in a way? What do I want? So that's kind of, hopefully this is speaking to you guys. That's what keeps coming up for me when I look at this chart. And so I look at the aspects, but I also, there's this interesting thing that happens that as you look, you start to feel like a rhythm. And that's kind of the rhythm. And we're all different. We all get different things out of it. So if you're trying to do readings, I don't know where you guys are at yet in your astrology. Maybe you're like, oh no, that's not for me. I'm not there yet. But trust your intuition, because whatever pops out at you, whatever you're looking at, I mean, we can look at, 25 different things in this chart, but what stands out the most? So my idea is what I've talked about so far, what stands out the most. But there may be something, and like for Teresa, that Pluto, and how is that Pluto? Well, you can see that it's got this bright sextile here to Neptune. So, how is Pluto and Neptune playing in your chart? Is there some truth you need to find out? Maybe something, a reveal, or thinking about the glasses, the looking glass. Maybe you need to be the detective somewhere in order to get to the bottom of something. So you'll know. You just have to trust yourself and be okay with what level you are of astrologer, because we're in all different places and we all have different interests. And that's part of what makes it so cool, so intriguing, and I listen to I drive a lot, and I'm on the podcast all the time listening to all different astrologers' perspectives, and I pull something from each one of them, and I'm like, oh, this one said that, that's cool, that resonates for me. This other one said that. So you pick what resonates for you, and you kind of leave the rest. That's kind of hard, because I didn't, when I first heard that, I'm like, no, I want to, like, I need some order. You hear that order coming out of me? Like, I need a plan. That's Virgo. I've got some Virgo energy. And, I think the South Node's been telling me, you don't always have to go according to the plan, Jen. It's okay. Let it be organic. Let it fall how it needs to, and you're going to do just fine. Nobody's perfect, and nobody needs to be perfect. So that's my full moon advice, guys. Let's see. We went over Sabian symbols. Who would like to hear about crystals and gemstones and aromatherapy? So
Sure.
I have.
Hit it, because we got to know what we need, right?
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to get to go out to Norwalk here last year and the year before, and Kira Sutherland, the medical astrologer, spoke, and she gave us these wonderful lists. So this comes from her, and she's got for Sagittarius essential oils are tea tree oil, ginger, cardamom, juniper, and grapefruit. Grapefruit's kind of an uplifting. And let's see, where's the gemstones? She also has, she calls these aromatherapies versus essential oil, but it's kind of the same. Clary sage, if you've ever seen that one, it smells like sage, but it's kind of a cleaner smell than sage. It's kind of nice, actually. It reminds me of something that we would use in yoga. Like sometimes we'll put them on people's temples, at the end of a practice. It's kind of a nice smell, clary sage. And she's got lime. So if you have limes in your kitchen, make yourself some lime water, just like lemon water. Just cut up some limes, and that's a quick and easy way. And then basil. So those are some herbs and some smells. The color of Sagittarius is purple, and in some guide there's blue is here as well, and it looks like that most of these gemstones have a blue flavor. Lapis lazuli, which is kind of like a variegated type of blue. It's a really pretty stone. Malachite, which is more green, and then angelite, which I believe is this guy here that I've got. It's a light blue. It kind of looks like a quartz, but it's got like a light blue color to it. Angelite.
That looks like celestite.
Is that celestite?
That's what it looks
Oh.
like. That
Yeah,
light.
it looks like celestite. Yeah, but it could be, it looks like it, but it could be one.
Okay.
Some of them look
Well,
so
maybe
close.
it's not. I was thinking that was the angel one. Okay. So I can be wrong. I don't know. Smoky quartz and black obsidian. I found that interesting. Black obsidian. Why would that be under Sagittarius?
Maybe because it's made in fire.
Maybe. Good thought. Could be.
Or not necessarily fire, but it's solidified magma. So it's
Mm-hmm.
it's associated with firmament.
That would make, yeah, and I bet that's why smoky quartz. You think?
Well, smoky quartz is not made in fire. It's there's some chemical in it that I don't know. I can look it up right now and see, but see about smoky quartz. I have this book, the Crystalline Communion
Oh, okay.
by Marcus. So let me just look this up really quick about smoky quartz,
Okay, cool. While
because
you're
there's some
looking, oh, go ahead.
there's a chemical in it. Oh yes, so it's the result of ultraviolet radiation turning aluminum to a dark brown or even black.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Radiation. Is that naturally occurring, I guess?
It is, but
Oh.
it can also be treated.
Okay. Where
Yeah.
does smoky quartz come from? Do you know? I don't know. I'm not good enough with the gemstones to know.
I'm not sure. It's probably coming from many places all over the
Yeah,
earth.
I would say the deep in the earth, and then if you think of smoky quartz, another thing you have to think about is that it disperses, it has a high frequency. And so it's usually put sometimes with other gemstones to help do some clearing. And so it
Okay.
has that kind of a frequency, a high frequency, think of high in Jupiterian. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that is why it's another reason why it may be there as well. It's the truth without the illusion.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I
mean,
like
yeah,
that.
that's a nice book that you have there, Cheryl.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a solid resource. It's
Yeah,
one
it's
of the
always
few
good to
books
have
that I
those.
took with me.
Yeah. Well, that's very nice. That's
So,
okay. So
Kira,
let's think
go ahead.
about you got where you are, right? You did something, you dug deep with your Plutarian for that Plutarian there you think about when you did the moon. And you
Uh-huh.
say there's that Pluto was there on the ascendant there. And so you went deeper and you dug deep and you found something that was a gem,
Mm.
right? That was really cool that you actually, it's kind of interesting where you're sitting like me, I'm going out there, I'm trying to initiate something, right? you know, and she went deep inside and found something bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Taurus is building. I'm building a deck.
Yeah. What about you, Teresa? I mean, like, did you feel any energy today?
Um, I haven't had time to really process it a lot because I was working right before this. I got off a little early to attend this. I did do like tarot cards right before I went to bed, really late, about an hour before the full moon, because it was 3 hours earlier here. It was at like 12:43 here. So I did tarot cards before that, and there was stuff about going deep. And
Mm,
and my nodes are Virgo and Pisces, so I've been
Oh,
feeling that
wow.
anyway.
wow.
So
Yeah.
it's been real interesting too.
Yeah, that's a
Right.
really nodal returns, right?
Yeah.
They're always interesting. And if you go back, I do research on on the nodes, and you go back and you look at the last time they were in these and what kind of things that happen. Like when you think of Virgo, you think of wheat, and because that's the sign.
The
And you
grain.
can,
Yeah.
yeah, the right. And we went into gluten, everything gluten free, and all this kind of stuff. And we also had wheat issues. And if you look at what's going to come up because of pandemically what had happened then, but then we had this war kind of thing has happened. But also, if you look at the UK in 2024, they had so much rain, all their durum wheat is didn't, so they're already behind in their wheat
Oh,
storage.
wow.
And so if you think of this wheat thing, you think of these nodes and what they do geographically all over the world. And so you can think of other things that it can affect, right? That's what I'm looking at. And if you look at Pisces and with the Pisces end of it, right, on the other with the other node, you think of Saturn's been in Pisces for all that time. And during that time, we had also had restrictions with our water. The
Hmm.
canals, they got restricted and stuff. Now that's opened, we got that, but there could be other things that happen, come along because we're getting to those end degrees, right? Getting closer to
Hmm.
as we go along. So it's really
Hmm.
interesting. So it's really kind of neat, though. Did you go back 18 years and see where you were, Teresa, and what you were doing and all that kind of
Um,
good stuff?
I need to do, I've done that for other things like Jupiter and Saturn, but I need to go back and look at the node stuff. Um,
Yeah. The
yeah,
node stuff would be really good, and also look at the eclipse that year because that's another family eclipse that comes up. So then that kind of see if it floats along with that. So it's always fun to
yeah,
uh, to dig deep now and put your little what do you want to call it, magnifying glass and look at all this stuff.
yeah. I
Yeah.
have Jan Spiller's book on the nodes, the astrology for the soul
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Hmm.
spiritual astrology, and I find those very fascinating too because of the Virgo Pisces stuff in there is like right on for me. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Another
Yeah.
one that's a good node book is Judith Hill.
Mm.
Judith Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I have all her books. I studied with her with my medical when I did my study with Judith, and I did more with the herbs. We did herbs for a whole year. I took a whole herbal class with her. But I have all the books. I love her books. I love her and stuff. But the nodes is really interesting. Her
Yeah, it
nodes.
is. It's worth investing in. I've got that one too. And I actually will use that if I'm teaching about the nodes, that's my go-to because it has so much information, so many keywords talking about like life things like the weather, animals, uh like you're talking about wheat, farming, like all different kinds of things that are normal life type of, keywords that
Okay.
you
And
wouldn't
then let's
normally
see.
associate. Yeah.
And there's another thing. I should have just seen it. Just looking, what Mercury in Cancer, right? Mercury's in Cancer. So there's something else, another nuance that brings. And this is when you look at latitude, well, Mercury's is out of bounds. Mercury's out of bounds. And Mercury out of bounds now, okay, so when it doesn't act right, it doesn't act well because it doesn't feel good out of bounds. And sometimes it's in a water sign, so you're going to be talking a lot about, moods, feelings, right? Kind of connecting with that. And it could be some things that come, from the past that's like, really feeling moods. So yeah, the moon's out, the Mercury's out of bounds. Anytime you can see, normally you do see, and Venus will go out of bounds sometimes too as well, and some of the inner planets, but definitely the moon, anytime, and the moon could be out of bounds when it's in, you can be in Cancer or Capricorn or Gemini and Sagittarius. So the moon will be going out of bounds here as it further goes along. And the moon will be out of bounds. And if I can look at the date, but you can always look at that. And that's another thing to add to you. But it's depending where you are, it's latitude. It's got to do with the latitude. And you use the Koch systems, Koch system, which is, more towards the latitudes.
Okay.
But when you're using tropical and it's out of bounds. Well, you know what, actually, yeah. And I put up a tropical and it's out of bounds. Is it out of bounds here? Wait a minute. Hold on. Maybe I'm wrong. I had somebody else's chart up. Forget that. Take that back. But it still could be out of bounds. I'm 90% sure there. Yeah, that was interesting. That I have too many other charts on my, and you click too fast and you definitely can get somebody else's chart, right? And so I go like, oh, you have Mercury out of bounds.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the share and wrap us up, and you guys can hang on here for a minute if you have other questions or comments. But since we went over an hour, and we're going to put this out there for others who might want to watch over the next few days. So I think we did it. I think we went over lots of aspects and tools and thoughts, and bless Barbie for coming on and giving us her higher level perspective, because you always bring good stuff.
You gave me a gem too back, and look closer at the degrees. And now I'm going to jump over to a different Sabian system, the Sabian mystery book that I have.
Okay.
Because it what it does, it gives you from 20 to 21 all in one. And so I like that. Then we don't get that, are we off? And precision is what we need. and you used your Mercury that's out of bounds. You see how you did that and the full moon?
There you go.
Yeah. But
all right. Well, I'm going to stop our share. Thank you, everyone who's out in Zoom world and who's watching this after the fact. We hope you had a very lovely full moon, and it brought good things in for you. And we'll see you again next month.